Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Private Lenders Podcast. Chris and Jason here. As always, this is sponsored by our mastermind group for private hard money lenders, hardmoneymastermind.com. Go check it out, create a free account, see what everyone's talking about. Okay, now, important concept we're talking about today, kind of a larger overarching concept in this business, and that's the fact that everything should snowball. Everything from your database, marketing, your client list of borrowers, your company lender accounts, your personal lender accounts, it all works in the same way. So we're going to break down some of that stuff because it does really, over time, it gets pretty exciting. You know, it just like anything, just like a little snowball, it starts slow and then it keeps going down the hill, gaining size, gaining speed. And we've seen that. We've seen it in real life, come to fruition over the past 15 years we've been doing this.
Yeah, and I think in general, most businesses, real estate, hard money lending or not, the goal is you continue to grow, obviously, over the years, but it doesn't have to be continuing grinding and hard work. Like, let the momentum of the snowball, like we're using the term snowball, right? Think about what a snowball is, right? It starts as a small, little piece of ice or little piece of snow packed together, and the circumference grows as it rolls down the hill and gets bigger, 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 and you almost can't stop it, right? It's too big that you just can't stop. I'll never forget years ago, before we even owned Hard Money Bankers, we went to a live event, a seminar, and there was somebody up on the stage, and he was talking about his rent checks. He owned lots of multifamily properties, and he was continuing to buy multifamily properties, and he waved his checks in the area. It was a little bit arrogant and but it is what it was. It caught my attention, and it was like, listen, I can't stop these rent checks from coming in, even if I wanted to. They just keep coming in. I own properties. They coming in, and you kind of get the point. And that's kind of the way we look at a lot of the different income streams and the business as a whole, as a hard money lender, along with other businesses as well. It's not just hard money lending, but we're going to go through kind of a few different let's just call it snowballs that we've encountered over the years inside our business.
Yeah, we're going to jump into that in 1 second. Here's another story for you. I don't know if we typically bring up this one, but there's a chapter in our book on this concept, our first book that we wrote called The Whiteboard Book, and the chapter is called The Snowball Will Save You. And so we were big into this concept, right? We're already talking about it, and then shortly after that, we find out that there's a 1,000-page book written about Warren Buffett's life called The Snowball. And it was kind of like, wow, they're saying that about Warren Buffett. Like, okay, we're onto something with this concept, right? Like, we weren't aware of that book at the time, but we put that in ours. Anyway, let's jump into a few aspects. So let's start with the front door, with your database and your marketing. So if you've heard us talk about marketing at all, like inside the mastermind group or on the podcast, you'll know that we're big into web marketing, growing that list every day. And that can happen in a number of different ways. Like when you first start out, you're just putting people in there like that, right? Like if you have a spreadsheet, database of some kind, business cards from back in the day, people that you actually know can go into your database. And then over time, you start doing the web marketing, some paid ads, social, and everybody goes into the same database that you can communicate with them, right? So every month we get maybe 1,500 new people, and we have unsubscribes too, of course, that's part of it. But around 1,500 new people come into, all opt in from wherever they see us, opt into our database to hear from us via email broadcasts or maybe voice broadcasts. And we've also dabbled with some text marketing over the years. That one's a little more tricky, but it grows and grows and grows, right? And so now we're delivering for our main database to maybe 50,000 people, I want to say, the vast majority of being local real estate investors who came into our world for one reason or another. So and over time, that'll be bigger. One day we'll hit 100,000, right? And then things will be looking pretty sweet.
And keep in mind, the beauty of an email database is, a lot of hard money lenders or private lenders just starting out have maybe a few hundred people. They know some realtors, they know some mortgage brokers, they have some other real estate investor clients that they've had in the past, and it's so important to consistently email that database, right? Mm-hmm. And as that grows, your deal flow will grow. I mean, listen, if we want to do more deals or another deal, send out another email blast, right? By the way, anyone need to close before December, right? And a lot of people's hands are raised. They email us back. They fill out a web form, pick up the phone and call us, and it generates business, right? It's just like anything. Would you rather have a 10,000 person email list or a 100-person email list, right? So it takes time to grow that, but over time, with your organic efforts, it's organically growing, right? You're meeting people in meetup groups, you're doing web marketing, whatever it is that you're doing on the front end marketing level will continue to grow that database, and that snowball becomes almost impossible to not ever be able to do a deal, right? Like you're always going to continue to do deals because of that snowball. And we'll look back sometimes and we'll be like, hey, we're, having a slower month. Okay, great. Let's do a few more email broadcasts. We have that database. It doesn't cost us any money to do that. So we ramp that up a little bit more, and we have that, that database of opted in local real estate investors to actually generate more business.
Yeah, and then moving down the line, those leads and the traffic and the people in your database, they turn into real borrower clients, right? So that's the next thing that snowballs is. You've also probably heard us say, and on a recent podcast, how important repeat clients are and lending to the same people over and over. And so once you have a real client list, people are calling you for deals. Like it could be from your marketing, but it's also because they know you and have done business with you and can easily contact you. And so that starts a snowball too. I was thinking about one old school hard money lender. He passed away a few years ago, but he was not a marketer, but everyone knew him and he had a huge client list. And he had so many repeat people calling him up to do deals that he would only originate loans. He had office hours for origination, and it was only from 9 to 1. And that was the only time they would answer the phone. And that, like I said, no marketing this guy. Not that I'm recommending that, but that was his, as an old school guy. He'd been around for decades. And they would only open from 9 to 1 to take calls. And they would originate throughout the day, shut it down, and they would leave from the home office and go to their office and work on the portfolio in the afternoon of outstanding stuff, right? That was their day. Like they had so many repeat clients, they could only take calls for half of each day, which is
pretty nice. And if you're currently a hard money lender or have originated deals or you've been in business long enough, you know the importance of dealing with repeat borrowers. Like it's 1/10 of the time that it takes on a deal like that. It's significantly easier. I don't necessarily want to say the risk is less, but it could potentially be less if you underwrote them correctly to begin with, right? You know what their product is, you know how they perform. It's a rinse and repeat. It's a heck of a lot easier. So inside, like my personal portfolio that I'm originating, I'm looking back on another screen right here for numbers. So we closed about 20 deals last month, and it looks like 11 or 12 of them were repeat, and then 8 were new. As a company, the ones that I originated was I think about 7, and 6 of them were repeat or something like that. However it shakes out. The point is the majority of them were repeat clients over and over and over and over and over and over.
And those are the things in our business that you can't stop. Right.
That's right.
In addition to the payments coming in, you can't stop those people from calling you because you lent to them before.
Yeah, exactly. So it's it's something that I don't think people take for granted, but at the same time, you take care of people, and we did a previous podcast of how to take care of your repeat clients. Go check that one out. It's a good one, but the point is, and we'll go on to a few other snowballs here in a second. The point of these snowballs is they continue to grow and grow and grow, and it's very, very hard to stop them, even if you ever did want to stop them, which most people would not.
Yeah. All right. So moving down the line, we're going to talk about lending money ourselves. So when we started HMB, we raised some investor capital. We didn't have any of our own money at the time. We were starting a company. We were in our 20s. And so the loans were funded entirely by a handful of investors. And then over the years, that database grew, or that investor list grew. And one thing that happened when we were a few years into business, we were doing pretty well, making some money now. And we saw that one of our larger capital investors, he made more from his lender account, which requires no work from him, and us running the company for a whole year. He made just a little bit more on his 1099 INT from us than we made that year. Just a little bit more. And we were like, all right, we had to work this whole year to make X, and he made it passively from his lender account. We got to get in the game. So we started our own lender accounts, started putting money in. They weren't big dollars at first, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time for that to accumulate. Every month, every quarter, we're putting more money into our personal lender accounts, and it starts to get real. After some time, after some years, it starts to get real. So we're a certain percentage of our own portfolio now. And down the road, we're going to be a large percentage of our own portfolio, right? Because that's how that compound interest works, and that snowball grows. And it's a big part of the point of this whole business, right? And I think a lot of people had been missing that point a little bit. We try to promote this a lot in the mastermind group. But I wonder what it would what it would look like, say, if you went to the AAPL, like the Private Lenders Conference in Vegas one year, and got on stage and asked everyone, and mind you, there's a lot of institutional back lenders and broker types and using that type of money. I would really like to know how many people in that audience have any money into hard money loans, right? I wonder how many people would raise
very low. It's a different, it's kind of a different business model completely. I mean, our entire model is putting our own funds, our family, friends, other people that we like, that we want to work with, into local loans that create high rates of return and continue to do so over and over. That's where the money's made. I mean, if you've been in this business, or if you're not, I'll share this with you. Like, typically, if you look back, and let's say, like, we lend 13% in 3 points, right? So if investor gets note rate -3, so if they're getting a 10% return, if you look back at the number after a loan matures, technically we're getting half and they're getting half. That's what it shakes out to, money-wise, right? That's not exactly how it's set up, but that's just what it ends up shaking out to. So you're giving up half the money for bringing in a capital investor. And you need to bring in capital investors, especially on the front end, unless you have lots of money to self-fund all of these deals. But the point is, as you grow and have your own money, you could be making twice as much money, or you can do half as many deals and make the same amount of money. You can do it that way, whichever one works. And that's the Warren Buffett kind of snowball approach. And on his mind, I mean, he self-funded so many of these things. He was giving up so much money to capital investors. And again, capital investors are a strong part. I think we're always going to have capital investors involved in our deals. We want them to be involved in our deals. But at the same time, look at the dollars and cents. I mean, there's no point to just grow and give up, half the money when you don't need to. Such a big concept is compound interest. And I love talking about compound interest. It's like literally the best topic ever. And the easy way to break it down is, if you're getting a 14.5% interest rate return for a 12-month period, you're doubling your money every 5 years for the most part, right? So if you're lending out at 13 and 3, you're getting at least 16% annualized if the money's turned once. If the money's turned twice, you're getting 19%. Plus you got default, some other stuff in play. But there's no reason why, as an active investor, you shouldn't be doubling your money every 5 years. That turns into a lot of money, right? Turns into a lot of money over the years. And it's something that we kind of obsess about, because we want to have as much of our own personal money into these deals. We see what the returns equal. And, as it grows, you can't stop it. Like, going back to the snowball, it just gets bigger, bigger, bigger. Like, go Google Warren Buffett's net worth chart. We talked about this on a meetup group that we just did, and there was a quick JPEG of it, but it's ridiculous. It's just and it's all compound interest. And it's so, the word snowball and snowballing something and compound interest go hand in hand. And if you really get into it, you'll obsess about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it does take that kind of focus on it. So in addition to the personal lender accounts we also have the same for each operating company. Sorry, it's going to get a little bit loud here. I got a vacuum running by the cleaning lady. Bear with me. So in addition to the personal accounts, we do the company accounts. Each of our 3 operating companies, we have a auto debit, where our escrow account, where the lender accounts are, pulls money from each of these 3 companies. And, a few grand a month, that sort of thing. We don't even really feel it in the budget. It doesn't hamstring our business in any way. But it really starts to add up. And then that money's deployed into loans, and it gets bigger. And then we just upped it too. We're like, all right, going into 22, we can afford to put a little bit more than we were in 21. So I increased that. I had our controller increase that transaction for each company that's going to get auto debt. Okay, now the snowball's growing a little bit faster, right? And so we have this bucket in our mind that down the road, the interest being earned by that company's lender account can cover the overhead for each entity, right? All right, now you have, in essence, no expenses, Now like your expenses are covered by interest and loans. And all right, now we're really getting somewhere, right? So we're not there yet, but over time it will look like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal with everything that everybody's doing, right? Like that, like, listen, being financially free is your passive investments are covering all your overhead in life. Now imagine doing that inside your business in so many different aspects of it. So, it's interesting and it's fun to think about. And like you said earlier, the quote what related to the snowball will save you. This isn't even, the goal isn't for it to save you, but let's say something like major happens. You have these snowballs that potentially can save you, right? If needed. So hopefully that won't be the case, but we're always building new snowballs out of our office. And inside our businesses, if you haven't read The Snowball by Warren Buffett, do it. It's a long book. I'll forewarn you, but it's so worth it. It's pretty much the life story of him and, how he got started. Learn about compounding interest. Like I have a compound interest calculator, in my, on my phone that I look at like literally every day. Cause I'm like, okay, this potential investment will pay out a 22% return, and a 22% return, how quick do I double my money? Things like that. I always look at things of how doubling money, and it ends up big, right? Like obviously, if you're starting with $25,000 invested into a deal, it's going to take time. But like, think about if you had $1 million right now, right? Like, do you know what $1 million equals in 20 years from now, right? So you were using the formula of doubling every 5 years. So $1 million in 5 years turns into $2 million. In 10 years, it's 14 million. Or it's 4 million, sorry. In 15 years, it's 8 million, and in 20 years, it's 16 million. You go from $1 million to $16 million in 20 years without doing anything except investing it passively in a 14, 15% interest rate return coupon deal. That's it. And that's what you have. That's the investment vehicle and the strategy that you built. And the reason why we haven't had to raise private capital for long periods of, since the beginning is because, we've been in business for almost 15 years. And a lot of our capital investors have doubled, tripled their original money, and it's grown significantly larger and quicker than potentially our snowballs of finding deals and good opportunities and clients have.
Yeah, true. That's another snowball. Just the actual appreciation of those lender accounts. And now you can lend out more without bringing in any new investors.
Yeah.
Right. So here's where, to wrap it up, here's where people tend to get stuck. And I've seen this live, like with some lenders that we work with. And whether we're talking about an email database or a lender account or any of the snowballs we mentioned, I think people will make the mistake of saying, okay, I don't have a 50K database like you guys, or I don't have X amount of investor capital, so I don't even know if I'm going to start, right? And that's the error. That's the mistake that a lot of people make. So I remember one conversation with our employees. So I mentioned to them too, like, guys, you can have your own lender account too, just like we do, just like our investors do, and earn interest on money that you put into hard money loans. And the response from a couple people is like, I don't have enough, so I'm not even going to start, which kills the snowball. The snowball doesn't even get off the ground, right? And I've seen some of that with some of the lenders that we've done private consulting with and stuff related to the email database. Like, what's the point of emailing them? I only have 50 people in the database. And I'm like, well, that's 50 people. You could get a deal, right? You can get a deal from that. 50 people's fine. I've emailed 50 people before. I've emailed 9 people, the concept is still the same. Starting from 0, starting from 10, starting from $5,000 into a hard money loan, right? Like the concept is exactly the same. And we went through it ourselves. And it takes time and it's painful. And it's frustrating and annoying. Or like retirement account investing, right? Like when you're starting out, you're looking at it, it's not much. It's like, yeah, I'm putting money into this thing, but it's so small. What's the point? And that's exactly the mistake that you need to avoid.
Exactly. And we can end with this. I was trying to see on my desk what stuff I had to resemble this. I got a golf ball, but like, think about this is your golf ball. This is whatever, $50,000 in cash that you want to lend out to 100 people on a database. This is the golf ball, right? So let's say you double this, it rolls down the hill and it gets a little bit bigger, right? So now you have $100,000 to start, of cash, and you have 200 people to grow your money with. Okay, well, that's this size, right? As that grows, you double it. Double this is this. Double this is this. Double this is this. That's why Warren Buffett's compound interest life like example, if you go Google that, is so big because, it's going to be hard to see this if you're watching this on video, not listening to this, but you start and grow slowly, and then it just freaking skyrockets, right? Because, hey, you 10x $100,000, right? And it's $1 million, right? It's a lot of money. But if you 10x $1 million, it's $10 million. It's significantly more amount of building with no more hard work. It's the same concepts. It's the same of passive investing. It's the same thing. You're not doing anything different except the momentum. It's the same momentum. It starts with a bigger amount. So hopefully,
it's being consistent with those actions, putting people in the database, putting money into a lender account. It's just consistency. And then the snowball will do its thing. You just keep doing the stuff. You just keep doing the same stuff. And the snowball will keep growing, right?
That's right.
So exciting concept. I hope you guys get to enjoy it as well. The snowball in these various aspects of business. I appreciate you checking out Private Lenders Podcast. And as always, we encourage you to take a look at the mastermind, hardmoneymastermind.com, create a free account, join the conversation, see what people are up to, and we hope to chat with you there. See you next time on the podcast.